Hey, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the levels of awareness and why it changes everything in your marketing. Before I realized this, I was running ads and getting a lot of calls that were just not interested, just wanted more information, wouldn't convert. I was closing at super low rates, spending just tons of money, honestly, wasting energy and resources on bad quality leads. But once I realized what the levels of awareness were, and more importantly, how to use them to your benefit, everything changed in my marketing. I started getting on calls where people were interested in buying. Again, this is to cold traffic, paid ads, and these leads were showing up to these calls more like the organic warm leads. So they came in pre-sold. They knew who we are, what we did, how we did it. They were interested in buying. They just wanted to know how we could help them specifically. They didn't come with questions like, what do you do? Who are you again? Why does this work? And most of the time, when you feel or hear even your sales team saying these leads are terrible, these are bad leads, we can't close these people, we need more people like our organic leads, that's because you're not properly taking them through the levels of awareness. So once I started thinking about what I was actually trying to accomplish, who I was talking to, and more importantly, the what level of awareness they were at, I mean, that's really when everything changed for me. So if you're struggling with getting your ads profitable, or you're driving traffic from ads to a call and they're getting on the call and they're just bad quality, you can't close them, it's not necessarily the ad or the funnel, it's actually how you're bringing people through the levels of awareness. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first thing we're going to cover is what even are the levels of awareness. And you may or may not have heard this idea before, but what I'm going to try to do is really simplify it and not as much explain I'm going to explain what the levels of awareness are here, but more how to use it, which is what we'll get to next. So first, you have the top part, which is the smallest portion of your market, and that's most aware. They know your product, they know how it works, they just haven't pulled the trigger yet. This is someone who's heard your offer, maybe they've gotten on a sales call, and they're ready to go. They just haven't converted yet. They're usually being followed up by your sales team, something along those lines, and you're just trying to convert them. They're on that like kind of last step. You just got to push them over that step. They're at the 1 yard line. So below that is going to be product aware. So product aware is when they know about your product but aren't fully convinced it's right for them. So they know about your product, but they're still not sure. Whereas most aware is like they're pretty sure. We just got to get them over the finish line. Next is solution aware. So solution aware is they know there are potential solutions, but they haven't picked one yet. So I'll go into examples of what that actually looks like. That's going to make this a lot easier to understand and more useful for you when you're actually marketing and taking leads through this process. But for now, let's just cover them real quick. So next below that is going to be problem aware. So they know that they're facing a challenge or pain point, but they don't know how to solve it yet. They don't know what the existing solutions are out there. And last but not least is unaware, and they don't even know they have a problem yet. So when we're looking at this, this is kind of shaped like a pyramid, and it looks evenly distributed, but it's not actually the case. Most aware and product aware are going to be very, very small portions of your total market. So it's going to be like a couple of percent, maybe 10% max. And then solution aware, problem aware, those are going to be more like 20, 30, 40%. And then unaware is going to be the largest audience. Now, to dig into this a bit deeper, these levels of awareness were actually created by Eugene Schwartz. He's a great copywriter, marketer, advertiser. And the whole purpose of this is to understand how can we figure out where people are, meet them where they are with our messaging, and then bring them throughout the sales process. So when they get to a sales call, they're ready to buy and they're in these higher levels of awareness. They're not still down here where they're trying to figure out how to solve their problem or figure out what your solution is. They're more ready to either purchase or just be educated a bit more on how you can help them. So a big thing here, and I'm going to get into this a bit more later, is the problem most people have with making their ads profitable is they try to skip steps. And this is a huge mistake I made for so long. And it's the reason that, yeah, maybe our ads were profitable on the front end, but most of the time it was break even, or we were even investing some money to acquire clients and then sell them on back end stuff to make it profitable. But that being said, if I would have known this earlier, I could have taken, which is now what we do, but I could have taken people who had no clue who we are, they just knew they had a problem, all the way to people who are getting on sales calls, product aware and most aware, pretty much ready to buy. So let's get into this a bit deeper. Now, if we simplify that even further, because that concept of, that we just talked, like this pyramid is even kind of confusing. You're like, where are people actually falling? Where do I fall? Like, what is my messaging actually talking to? So if we simplify it even further, first in unaware, they just don't care about what you do. They have no problems. They're not worried about anything. Like they just do not care. Next, in problem aware, they're thinking, okay, something's wrong in my world. Like I've got some problem. And we'll dive into what a problem actually is because there's two types of problems, but we'll go into that in just a second. But something's wrong in my world. I've got some type of problem. Then solution aware is now that they know they have a problem and they're aware of the solutions that are out there. Next is going to be the product aware. So I know specific options. So they decided on a solution. Now they know the options within like service providers that provide that type of solution. Again, I know this is confusing, but I'm going to keep giving more examples that are going to make this clearer and clearer, and then show you how to actually use this to push people through your funnel and shrink those sales cycles. So you're not 30, 60 days to convert someone, you're like a week. That's what we need to achieve. And then last is most aware. I'm almost ready to buy, just deciding from who. So again, this is the person who's like on the finish line. We just got to give them something to get them across the finish line and work with us versus a very close competitor. So yeah, like I put here, you don't need to overcomplicate this. Just understand where your prospect is mentally, or think about where, because you probably have prospects who are all across the spectrum. But when you're doing marketing, when you're advertising, you need to know who you're talking to so you can bring them through this process, which is what most people don't do, and which is why your paid ads are struggling. They're not converting. You're getting bad sales calls. So let's talk about the two types of pain. There's pain, and then there's unfulfilled desires. So I put these two cheesy photos to kind of clearly show you what that looks like. But a pain is going from below average back to average. So this is literally like fixing back pain. Like there's a clear pain that's keeping you from living a normal life. Now, an unfulfilled desire is going to be going from average to above average. So if someone's making like 10K a month in their business and now they want to get to 100K a month, that's not really a pain. Like it's not like they're suffering, but because they're not where they want to be, there's a gap between where they are now and what they want to achieve in the future. And that is ultimately a problem for people. If they can't find a way to get to 100,000 a month, but they want to do that, or it could even be 100,000 to a million a month, whatever the case is, and they don't know how to do that, that is a pain, or that's a problem that they want to solve. They want to achieve that desired outcome. They haven't been able to do it. They don't know how to do it. That's a problem. There's some roadblock in their way to achieving their end goal. That's what creates a problem. So every problem someone has can be broken down into two buckets, pain or desire. And most people sit somewhere in that pain or desire spectrum. Your job is to meet them where they are, then move them forward through the levels of awareness. So let's go through a couple real examples so you can actually see this in action and it's not just theoretical. So I'm going to do a B2C example because this one's pretty straightforward to understand it this way. And then I'll also do a B2B one down here at the bottom. So the B2C example of unaware is going to be someone who's working a 9-to-5 job and they have no interest in changing. They're happy, work is good, nothing's wrong. Like they're just completely unaware that they have any problems or anything. Everything looks good. Now, the next level, which is going to be problem aware, is when that person starts hating their 9-to-5. They want more time. They want more income. They want more freedom. They don't want to be stuck in the 9-to-5. Like they saw something or heard something that started to give them the belief of, okay, there might be something more out there for me. They no longer want to stay in, what a lot of people call the rat race. And if you've heard that, you probably at some point went from unaware to problem aware. And now they want to make a change, but they don't know how. They just know, hey, I don't want to be working in this 9-to-5 anymore. I want more time. I want more income. I want freedom. I want control. And now this creates a problem. In this case, it's going to be an unfulfilled desire in most cases, but sometimes it could be a pain because if someone's like not making nearly enough money to survive, they're really struggling, that's going to be more of a pain because they're going to be going from below average to average. But if someone's making like, 150, 200K a year and everything's good, but now they want to take it to the next level. They want to make more income, whatever the case is. That's going to be someone who's on the unfulfilled desire side of things. So now, if we go down to solution aware, this is where they start becoming aware of options that work for them. And the B2C example I'm using here is kind of like business opportunities. So if you've seen ads or anything about like real estate investing or crypto or whatever, like telling people, hey, you don't need to work anymore. You can come run this type of business, or you can start this thing, or you can do this investing. That's the biz op industry. So business opportunity. And that's kind of how this process works. So just so you know, for context, that's what I'm working through here. So they go from the problem aware, which is, hey, I hate the 9 to 5. I want more time. I want more income freedom. Then they start to see these other options, what are called solutions or unique opportunities, unique mechanisms, like ways that you can potentially solve that problem. So, like I said, things like maybe starting an agency, investing in real estate, getting into crypto, getting into stock trading, all these different solutions that do solve that problem, but in different ways. So once they're solution aware, then it becomes product aware. So now that they've let's say they chose to go start an agency. Now they're thinking, okay, I have this problem. I want to leave my 9 to 5. I'm going to start an agency. Now I want to see who's going to help me. What provider is going to help me start this agency? There are going to be a ton of options here. There's going to be coaches, courses, consultants. There's going to be freelancers that could help them. There's so many things that they could do. So now they're looking for products to help them implement this solution. And last but not least, most aware, this is all the people who are product aware. They know, or solution aware, or let's go back even further. They're aware of the problem. They know what solution they're going to go for. They're going to start an agency. They've looked at all the products. They know what type of product. So maybe they're going to go find a coach. And then lastly is most aware. They have an idea of which coach they want to work with. They just need to buy from them. Or maybe there's 2 options and they're just picking which one to buy from. So that's the B2C example. Let's now get into a B2B example. And let's say we're talking about team efficiency. So a company that helps people, or the problem in the market that is team efficiency. So companies feel like their employees aren't operating as efficiently as they should, so on and so forth. So unaware is going to be the business owner doesn't notice their team is inefficient. Everything's running fine. Costs are good. Margins are good. Everything's fine. They don't think they have a problem. Next is going to be problem aware. So they realize, hey, my team probably isn't performing as well as they should. I think it's losing me money. They feel like they should be getting more output. Their margin should be higher, all that kind of stuff. Then next is going to be solution aware. So now that they know this, they have the problem, they're going to start looking for solutions. Now, the solutions could be things like building out SOPs, hiring a systems consultant, getting productivity tools, putting a new project management software in place, all that kind of stuff. So those are different solutions to this problem. And then after they have decided on a solution, now let's say they chose the productivity tools. Now they're looking at specific productivity tools. And then finally, most aware, they're ready to buy. They just need to pick one of them. They're pretty much set on a couple. They just need something to push them over the line. So that's how that process works. Again, and you can kind of see it webs. It's like they have no idea that they have a problem. Then they identify themselves with a problem. They think, okay, here's the problem that I have. Then it branches out, and there are all these solutions that they could be targeting or that they could be using to solve their problem. And then they ultimately pick one of those solutions again, and it brings them into another branch. So now they're looking at all of the different people who provide that solution in a market. And then once they pick the provider, then it's just deciding, do I go with this one? Or, it's pretty much they're ready to buy. It's small things. So now let's get into why this matters for your marketing. So most of the time, people, when they run their ads or their funnels and they don't really realize they're doing it, they just realize, hey, there's a problem here. I'm getting terrible sales calls. People are unqualified, all that kind of stuff. The ads they're too expensive, whatever the case is. There are all these symptoms of the problem, but in reality, it's usually because they're skipping levels of awareness. So they're trying to take someone who just knows they have a problem and trying to sell them on their product. But the person hasn't yet made the correlation between the problem and how your product solves that problem. So if we look back here, if we think about this logically, like someone who has a problem, the next step is they have to choose the solution. Then once they choose the solution, then you can sell them on your product. So if you look back at how what most people do, it's, hey, you've got this problem, if they're even advertising that way. And a lot of people advertise with just the product. So they say like, hey, we've been in business for 20 years. We do a great job. Here are testimonials. You should buy from us. That's going to get like 1% of the market. Your costs are going to be extremely high. It's just going to be impossible to make those ads profitable. But for the people who do have kind of a bit more advanced marketing, I guess you could call it, or a little bit of a higher level of marketing, they recognize, hey, we need to talk about the problems that people have. Because if we get people who have the problem that we solve, then we can sell them on our product and ultimately convert them into customers. But what they don't do is they take someone who has a problem and they try to sell them the product, but they never make the bridge to show why your solution solves that problem and then how your product delivers on that solution. So I'm going to go back here for a second one more time. So if we look at this and at this chart and we see, okay, the problem, let's go down here. Actually, let's do the B2C. I think this is probably easier to understand. So if we have someone who starts hating the 9 to 5, they want more time, more income, whatever. And then we come down here and we just try to sell them on a consultant, then you're totally wasting your time because they don't quite know, well, how is this consultant going to help me? So what you want to do is say, hey, if you hate the 9 to 5, starting an agency is the best way to solve that problem. Then once they're sold on that, you as a byproduct, however you deliver on that becomes a much easier sell because now they're in their head thinking, okay, I want to start an agency. I need someone to help me do it. And that's where you show, we offer consulting or we offer coaching or a course or whatever it is. Same thing with B2B. If this person says, it's their problem is they realize their team isn't performing and it's costing them, and you just go down and you try to sell your productivity tool without first explaining how it's going to solve that problem, it's very difficult. Like, think about this. I've gotten on so many calls with salespeople from tech companies specifically, where I get on the call and I have a problem and I get on it and they just start pitching me a demo with all these features. And I'm like, I don't even know how this thing solves my problem. They're like, yeah, we've got, all these tools and all these gadgets and all this stuff. And I sit there and I'm like, I still don't know how this solves my problem. Like, for example, I was looking for data at one point. I said, I need data. And they're like, great. I sat down with this company and he goes through a 30-minute presentation of all the different features that are like how they filter data and how they do all this stuff. I'm like, I don't even care. I don't know how this solves my specific problem. So if they would have first sold me on my specific, the solution to my specific problem, I would have bought. And that's exactly what another company did because I showed them, hey, I need this data. And he showed me why their solution was unique in solving that problem. And because of that, I really didn't even care what the product did. I went and bought because I already knew how that solution was going to solve my problem. And I didn't really even care about the features. I just said, hey, it's good. That sounds good. Let's go ahead. And I purchased that. And that was a 10-minute call. So that's because he sold me on the right thing, which was the solution, why their solution was better to solve my problem, not all the features and benefits. Like, I didn't care about that. I needed to know why the solution solved my problem first. So now that we've kind of seen that, that's why, because you're trying to skip that step, that's why your funnels don't convert, your ads flop, and your sales calls feel forced. You get these bad quality leads, when in reality, the bad quality is they're just not sold on your solution. I mean, think about how much easier it would be if people weren't getting on your sales calls from your ads asking you, well, what do you guys do again? Like, who are you? How does your thing work? And the biggest mistake people, I personally made this ton when I first started selling, but like when people ask, well, what do you do? They're not asking, what do you actually do? And what I tended to do and what most people tend to do is start selling your service or selling the deliverables of what you do, versus what they're really asking is, how does your solution solve my problem? So instead of, if someone came to us and said, hey, what do you guys do? I used to just start selling deliverables. And what I'm doing is I'm skipping that step of the solution. So I would say, oh, we're going to build your ads. We're going to do all this stuff. Doesn't work. People are like, yeah, I don't need that. I don't care. But what now we have, and it's because it works, is the decision reframe. So when people ask, well, what do you guys do? So yeah, we actually put people through a process that reframes the decision. So you're not competing with all of your competitors, or well, actually, it's more of like we have the conversion bridge, which utilizes the decision reframe. So instead of competing with all the other competitors, you position yourself as a unique solution to their problem. And that gets people, once they're sold on that solution, the deliverables is that's really what your offer is. And that's kind of like a secondary idea. As long as it makes sense, there's clear ROI, they're going to buy, but they need to be sold on that solution first. It's very, very important that you do this. So yeah, if you're skipping that step in your buyer's journey, that's why your ads are struggling. And I'm telling you this from personal experience, losing so much money on ads and trying to get it trying to get it to work for years, and just finally realizing, oh man, this is really what it is. So I put down here at the bottom, this is very important. It helps you reposition the problem in a way that naturally leads into your unique solution and your product, rather than trying to shove someone into a sales call before they're ready. Now, let's talk about the funnels and messaging based on awareness. So let's say you're running cold ads, cold traffic, usually is going to be problem aware or solution aware. And your job is to move them from, I have a problem, to your solution is the best one before they get on that call. So if they're sold on that solution, again, think about what we just talked about. If we take them from problem aware and then we sell them on the solution, we don't skip this stage. Then this third step, when they actually get on the call, they just want to know how you fulfill on the solution. So you have to sell them on that. So your goal before the call is to take them from problem aware to solution aware, sold on your solution, thinking your solution is the best one. Then when they get on the call, now they're just looking to become product aware, and you can convert them. So if you go straight to book a call, but they don't even understand the solution yet, you're going to struggle. I know I'm hammering this home, but I'm telling you, this is what is going to take your ads from unprofitable, absolute time wasting leads and calls and sales, like all that kind of stuff, to high quality, profitable funnels that actually produce sales calls that are ready to purchase, or at least ready to understand how you can provide on that solution. And if they're sold on the solution, then the chances of them buying are so high, it's a massive difference. Like overnight, you'll see the difference. So instead, you got to walk them through that process. So your ads, your emails, your VSLs, your landing pages, your content on social media, everything should be designed to move people through that sequence. So move them from problem to here's how our solution's the best. All you're doing in your marketing, in your ads, everything before the sales call is selling people on your solution. How do you uniquely solve that problem? And you might think that, a lot of people tend to think that they don't have a unique solution. You 100% do. You just have to dig into it, and you will find something that's going to be your unique way for solving the problem. So that being said, let's get into the unique mechanisms and kind of final thoughts. So your unique solution is essentially your unique mechanism or your unique system, process, or method that reframes how they see the solution. So I know that's kind of a lot of information. It kind of sounds all over the place. To kind of simplify that, you want to show them, okay, here's your problem. Here's all the other solutions that you've tried. Here's why they didn't work. And here's what we do differently to make sure that you don't have all those problems. So if you're selling something and you're like, hey, I know I can get results, I guarantee if I sat down with you for 5 minutes, we could dig into why do you actually think that? And boom, that's your unique thing. So if you're doing, I'm trying to think of a good example. I always go back to tax. I don't know why taxes, but let's say you're doing taxes and you have a unique strategy to fulfill or to save people money on taxes. That's your unique mechanism. That's your solution. That's how you're different. And then you go out and you sell that in your marketing, in your ads, in your VSLs, in your landing pages, in your text before someone gets on a sales call. So I have a friend who's a financial advisor, and I was talking to him about this. And, we broke down, like, who are you specifically working with? What is the specific problem that they're trying to solve? And then how do you do that in a unique way? And we went through it, and they had, high net worth, specific person they were targeting. The problem they were solving is they're paying a ton of money in taxes, and they had a specific strategy that they didn't even like kind of realize. I mean, they knew it, but they never put it in marketing words or marketing terms to save people on taxes, create tax-free income, do all that kind of stuff. So now I'm telling them in their marketing, only talk about that. In your messaging, only talk about that. Talk about the problem, say you have a unique way to solve it, show them how you do it, show them the solution, call to action to book a call. Now, when that person gets on the call, they're not saying, oh, hey, you're a financial advisor. How are you better than all these other people? Like, how are you going to charge me less fees? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? They're not going to compare them to competitors because they're sold on that solution, and only my friend's company can offer them that solution. So that's why this is so, if you get this, I'm telling you, your ads will do so much better. So much better. Your calls will be better. Everything will be better because you're unique now. Everything is reframed, and they're not going to compare you to a bunch of other people, all that kind of stuff. So what you want to do after you create it is name it and kind of frame it and build around it. So like our decision reframe and the conversion bridge that we have, that's what makes our system work. And another thing I want to mention is make sure your unique mechanism is real. Don't make something up. Don't make it sound like BS. People will notice that. Like if you pitch someone and you kind of just took what they've already tried or what they've done in the past and just slapped like a new name on it, or you're like, oh, this is our specific system for doing X thing, but like they already know about it. It's not unique. They're going to tell right away, and you're going to destroy the trust, and they're not going to convert. So really make sure that this is actually something that you do uniquely, or you have a specific way of doing it. Like if I was talking to my friend, again, the financial advisor example, if I was talking to him and I said, and he said, yeah, we do like muni bonds, which is something everyone knows about. Like, hey, we've got this super cool strategy for, doing whatever the case is, tax-free income. And then they sell people, they say, hey, if you're paying too much in taxes, you want more tax-free income, check out our strategy. It's super unique, whatever. This is bad copy, but just to give you an idea, super unique. And then someone watches a video talking about that and they're like, yeah, we're going to buy you muni bonds. It's like, I already knew that. Like, I already know you can do that. I already know that strategy. It's not unique. They're going to lose all trust. No one's going to convert because they already know how that works. So make sure that your unique mechanism, your process, your unique solution is actually unique and is something different. If you do that, that's really where you're going to get people coming through because they haven't heard about it before. And most people have been burned by other solutions. They've tried other stuff. It hasn't solved your problem. So if you pitch them the same thing that everyone else has pitched them, or even something they've only heard about before, they're not going to care. They're not going to do it. And I've actually had sales calls I've gotten on for for my clients where people get on the call and they'll say, oh yeah, I've heard about this before, but they haven't implemented it. So it didn't work for them. But since they've heard it already, they still didn't want to convert because they'd already heard it. They're already like, oh, people know about this. Nobody wants something that's not new. It's just the truth. Even if they haven't tried something, it's the craziest thing. Even if they haven't tried it themselves, if they've heard it and that's all, literally they've just heard it, they're not going to convert because they'll be like, oh, this is old news. People don't want old news. People don't want tried and true stuff. They want new strategies. Even something that's been working and it still works phenomenally for 10 years. A lot of people are going to be like, it's kind of an old strategy. Maybe it's outdated. Maybe it doesn't work anymore. Like, what about the economy? Hasn't the economy changed? Like, there's so much stuff that hurts things that have been around for a while. So if your strategy is very similar to what's already out there, you got to keep digging. There's got to be something you do that's unique to you or unique in your process or whatever that you do to solve that problem, get the person the desired outcome. And that's what you got to focus on. So that's number one. Or number two, first create it, then name it, frame it, and build around it. So that's in your marketing. And also meet people where they are. So you got to figure out what stage of awareness your audience is in. And once you do that, you can really help obviously move them through the process, create better messaging, just really more know who you're talking to. If we move down here a bit, and if I didn't put it down here, I'm going to kind of talk about it off I'll talk about it as a side note. But so yeah, if you pitch a common solution, like we build a funnel or we run Facebook ads, you're competing with everyone else who does the same thing. It's just not going to work. Your prospect can shop you, price check you, and pick someone else. That's why you need this unique mechanism. If you're struggling with bad leads, low show rates, people ghosting you on calls, it's probably not the offer. In some cases, it definitely is the offer, but it's probably not. It's probably that your message isn't meeting people where they are and guiding them through the process to ultimately be someone who can close. So you'll see higher conversions once you do this, better sales calls, and much easier time scaling your business. One thing I do want to mention is there are cases where you can be in a solution aware market and still make this work. You just have to show, like, for example, if someone is looking for like Facebook ads are a huge audience, and you realistically probably could run ads saying, hey, we'll do your Facebook ads, but then you need to have some specific reason why your Facebook ads work better than other people's. Again, you're still kind of competing at a level where, like, you're competing with all the other people who say they run Facebook ads, and you really need to sell on why your system gets better results. Um, it's still going to be tough, but it can be done. So I make this point to say not everyone needs to go problem aware. If you go solution aware, you just have to make sure your market's big enough. Because like we talked about earlier on this slide, the higher up you get, the smaller the audience is. Solution aware is still big, but problem aware is bigger. And one other kind of side point, and I learned a lot of this stuff from Todd Brown. He's a legendary marketer and advertiser, and he's just a phenomenal copywriter, everything. And the one thing he says is if you sell to people at a problem aware stage, you're not just going to get the people who are problem aware. You're going to get the people who are problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. But if you sell at solution aware, you're not going to get people who are problem aware. Because think about it, if they don't know what their problem is and you're selling them on as if they already knew what the solution was and how your way is, works better or whatever, it's very hard to do that. So what I think is the best way to go about it is problem aware. It is harder, but if you know what you're doing, I mean, it's really not, it's not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward. You just need to get people, show them, hey, I understand your problem. Here's our unique solution for solving it. Here's how it works. Your unique mechanism, whatever. And then once they're sold on that solution, your mechanism, you move into the product aware stage. So again, it's not rocket science, but you do have to know what you're doing. By now, you should have a good idea of how that works. So yeah, that's just another side note. So that all being said, that's all I got for you in this video. I hope this helped. One final thought, just kind of make sure you're moving people down the levels. Problem to solution to product to most aware and converted. Do not skip the solution aware. That's why your sales calls suck. It's just honest. That's really why. It's not the ads, not even the funnel strategy. It's not, what you said 2 minutes into the VSL. It could be, but it's probably not. It's your entire messaging overall. And once you have this messaging down, this is the core of all of your marketing, all of your advertising. You can run ads on Facebook. You can run ads on Google. You can run ads on YouTube. You should do this in your organic marketing. You could go on podcasts. You could do paid speaking engagements, and all you talk about is this. If you have this problem, here's our unique solution. That's it. You just hammer that messaging every single place you go. And once you get that down, I mean, it's a phenomenal change because now you can actually convert cold traffic. And if you can convert cold traffic, you can convert warm traffic. So yeah, I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer. All right. Thank you for watching.